How could sharing something called good news always end up feeling so bad? I really couldn't figure out the answer. And if you're like me, your life was changed by the love of God and the life of Jesus. And what you wanted is you wanted to share that with the people around you, your friends and your families and your neighbors. You wanted them to experience this extraordinary grace and love of God. So I tried loving them by sharing the good news, first of all, with my words, a verbal witness. That seemed to result in a series of relationally awkward conversations. I felt like I was pushing on them, a disaster. Then I tried a completely different approach to loving others. I would just share the good news with simply how I lived my life. The result? It seemed like nobody noticed. It seemed that however I loved others, whether it was with my words or through my life, that it would leave either them or me feeling bad. And I asked, what am I doing wrong? Maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because the more Christians I talked to, the more I discovered there are lots of us that are frustrated and confused about how do we actually love people in a way that includes sharing the good news of loving God. And all that frustration led me on a search for a simple way to share the love of God with those I care about. And ultimately, it led me right back to the Bible and how Jesus did it. And I'm a little embarrassed and also shocked that it took me so long. You see, Jesus had a simple, everyday way of loving others and sharing the good news, helping his friends come to know the love of God. Now, before I got to Jesus, and before I share that with you, I want to share with you some research I did on your neighbors and your friends. Did you know, according to Gallup, 87% of Americans say they believe in God? All right, now why is that significant? I want you to think about the 10 closest friends and neighbors that you have. So that stat indicates, on average, that 8 or 9 of them already believe there is a God. Now, I'm not suggesting they're churchgoers. I'm not even saying they have a relationship with Jesus. Most do not. But the point is that most of the people around you already believe in a God. And what they need, they just need someone that they trust to help them point their way and help them find their way back to the one true God. Now, discovering the best way to do that's exactly why we wrote this book and why we believe it's going to be helpful to you. Now here's the kicker. 79% of unchurched people agreed with the following statement. I don't mind talking to a friend about their faith if they really value it. They agreed to that. So within a friendship, the vast majority of people are willing, interested in talking about spiritual things. Well, then to follow that up, I found this eye-popping study by the Barna Research Center. They ask your friends and neighbors what they value in a person with whom they would have a spiritual conversation. They'd talk about spiritual matters. There were 3 top qualities they're looking for in who they'd talk to about spiritual things. Number 1, they're looking for a friend who will listen without judgment. You see, listening is one of the purest acts of love. What our neighbors, what our friends want from us is just someone to lean in and just listen. They have a desire to have another person absorb their questions and their stories. And it's not so you can come to a verdict, but so that you can process with them and they can process their feelings and experience it in the context of a relationship. That's the first thing they want. The second thing they want a friend who will allow them to draw their own conclusions. Your friends and your neighbors, they're not projects. Remember, they're people like us. And they're looking for someone who will not force a conclusion on them, but instead will actually trust them to have their own spiritual journey. And then thirdly, what they're looking for is a friend who has confidence in actually sharing their own perspective. So after you've listened to your friend, once you've given them the space to kind of process, it's then and only then that the people who are around us are interested in actually us confidently sharing our own perspective with them. They want to know our stories. They want to hear our experiences. It's interesting. If I had to summarize what the research tells us about what those around us are looking for, I think I'd do it in one word. Here's what they're looking for, one word. A friend. A friend. It's that simple and that challenging. People are looking for you to be a friend. So here's how I would like to help you in this blessed book. I want to help you understand how to love your neighbor the way that Jesus did. I also want to help you avoid making the good news complicated when it should be simply something that comes from your heart. I also want to spare you from relationally awkward conversations. I know what that's like, because the gospel was meant to be shared in just routine exchanges between friends and neighbors. And I also want to give you 5 simple ways that you can bless people within the routine of your everyday life.